right, guys. So chapter 7. From here on this point, it's pretty much a quick downhill from chapter 6 toward the kind of to the end of the novel. We're on page 98. There's only 115 pages in this novel, so we're pretty much almost there. And things happen very, very quickly at this point. So chapter 6, a bunch of them have died while waiting, basically, for the train car in Gleevitz, and now they're being transported, right? So chapter 7 is all about that train journey. Again, it's the middle of winter. They're deeply emaciated. They're exhausted from a 15-mile run or more. They're freezing to death. They don't have any clothes. They're not being fed. They're not being given water. They're just eating snow as a way to kind of hydrate themselves. And they're in roofless cattle cars, no less, in the middle of winter in Poland. So nothing is good really at this point in time. The chapter 7 is significant for kind of the dehumanization. One is hugely important in this chapter. We start to see a lot of that, but also to just how much the Jews have internalized that, how animalistic they have become with what the Nazis have done to them. So, they talk about how excited they are when they're throwing out the dead, right? The living were glad they would have more room. Volunteers began the task. They touched those who had remained on the ground. So there seems to be this just disregard for death, for life, for death, for anything that has happened to these people. Because I think at this point, there's no more room in their brains for anything but themselves. Because, and for no fault against them, it's through no fault of their own. This is kind of where they are and where the Nazis have put them, right? They're not here of their own choice. They have been placed in these situations and caused to become this by the treatment of the Nazis. We also have the kind of instances of them throwing bread, and the people in these kind of villages that they're passing through. So this is, why I think in our blame charts, I think those people that lived in and around the concentration camps and things like that deserve more blame than they receive, because it's not as if they were unknowing about what was going on. They saw these things, and they just chose to ignore them because it wasn't happening to them. And they had bought into the German propaganda that this was happening to these people. They weren't people anyway, so it didn't really matter. So, throwing them bread, not to feed them, but to watch them fight for their own kind of enjoyment. And about how that has Ellie kind of think about that similar thing that happens to him in Aiden on page 100. Our passengers amused themselves by throwing coins to the natives who dove to retrieve them. An elegant Parisian lady took great pleasure in this game. When I noticed two children desperately fighting in the water, one trying to strangle the other, I implored the lady, please don't throw any more coins. Why not, said she. I like to give to charity. And it's not charity, right? It's power. It's enjoying watching these people fight to the death, as we see in this chapter, for your own enjoyment, right? So Ellie watches a father or son kill his father, and then watch the son be killed immediately after by two men, all over one tiny crust of bread. And he says on page 102, I was 16, one simple, short declarative sentence. And I think it's to show us just how little Ellie has aged in terms of a timeline, right? He's 15 when he enters the camps. He's 16 now, but how much he's aged emotionally and in terms of what he's experienced. He's broken by this, right? This is it's such a horrible thing to think about a father killing a son. And, to watch it happen in front of him, I think is particularly upsetting. And again, 16 years old, Ellie's close to you guys in age. And to have witnessed something so horrible, so life-changing at that age, I can imagine is something that stays with you forever, for the rest of your life. And it's something that Elie Wiesel has spoken about grappling with, about trying to escape the Holocaust even after he was liberated from it. It was something that was very difficult. On page 103, he talks about the wind, this terrible glacial wind, and about how it's just merciless and killing so many people all at once. It's on page 103. Suddenly, a cry rose in the wagon, the cry of a wounded animal. Someone had just died. Others, close to death, imitated his cry, and their cries seemed to come from beyond the grave. Soon, everybody was crying, groaning, moaning, cries of distress hurled into the wind and the snow. The lament spread from wagon to wagon. It was contagious, and now hundreds of cries rose at once, the death rattle of an entire convoy with the end approaching. All boundaries had been crossed. Nobody had any strength left, and the night seemed endless. And I think this just echoes and amplifies the hopelessness of chapter 6, right? One died because one had to. And here we see that again. And we see the kind of death toll that happens as Ellie says at the bottom of 103, we'd been 100 or so in this wagon. 12 of us left it, among them my father and myself. So just disdain for human life really is the only way to think about it. All right, so they arrive in Buchenwald here, and this is very, very close to the end of the novel. We only have 2 chapters to go, and 8 is the bulk of it, right? Chapter 9 is only like 3 pages or so, 4 pages. So we'll be done with this novel very, very soon. All right, guys, let me know if you need anything. Bye.